The Cisco Kid had killed 6 men in more or less fair scrimmages, had murdered twice as many, mostly Mexicans, and had winged a larger number whom he modestly forbore to count. Therefore, a woman loved him. The kid was 25, looked 20, and a careful insurance company would have estimated the probable time of his demise at, say, 26. His habitat was anywhere between the Frio and the Rio Grande. He killed for the love of it, because he was quick-tempered to avoid arrest for his own amusement. Any reason that came to his mind would suffice. He had escaped capture because he could shoot 5/6 of a second sooner than any sheriff or ranger in the service, and because he rode a speckled roan horse that knew every cowpath in mesquite and pear thickets from San Antonio to Matamoros. Tonia Perez, the girl who loved the Cisco Kid, was half Carmen, half Madonna, and the rest, oh, yes, a woman who is half Carmen and half Madonna can always be something more. The rest, let us say, was Hummingbird. She lived in a grass-roofed jacal near the little Mexican settlement at the Lone Wolf crossing of the Frio. With her lived a father or grandfather, a lineal Aztec, and somewhat less than 1,000 years old, who herded 100 goats and lived in a continuous drunken dream from drinking mezcal. Back of the jacal, a tremendous forest of bristling pear, 20 feet high at its worst, crowded almost to the door. It was along the bewildering maze of this spinous thicket that the speckled roan would bring the kid to see his girl. At once, clinging like a lizard to the ridgepole, high up under the peak grass roof, he heard Tonia, with her Madonna face and Carmen beauty and hummingbird soul, parley with the sheriff's posse, denying knowledge of her man in her soft melange of Spanish and English. One day, the adjutant general of the state, who is, ex officio, commander of the ranger forces, wrote some sarcastic lines to Captain Duval of Company X, stationed at Loretto, relative to the serene and undisturbed existence led by murderers and desperadoes in the said captain's territory. The captain turned the color of brick dust under his tan, and forwarded the letter, after adding a few comments, per Ranger Private Bill Adamson, to Ranger Lieutenant Sandridge, camped at the waterhole in the Nueces with a squad of 5 men in preservation of law and order. Lieutenant Sandridge turned a beautiful color de rose through his ordinary strawberry complexion, tucked the letter into his hip pocket, and chewed off the edges of his gamboge mustache. The next morning, we saddled his horse and rode alone to the Mexican settlement at the Lone Wolf crossing of the Frio, 20 miles away. 6'2", blond as a Viking, quiet as a deacon, dangerous as a machine gun, Sandridge moved along the jacals, patiently seeking news of the Cisco Kid. Far more than the law, the Mexicans dreaded the cold and certain vengeance of the lone rider that the ranger sought. It had been one of the kid's pastimes to shoot Mexicans, to see them kick, if he demanded from them moribund Terpsichorean feats, simply that he might be entertained. What terrible and extreme penalties would be certain to follow should they anger him?